Welcome back. This is still the morning brief on Channels Television. And now we talk about tourism, something that would affect every single individual in Nigeria when it talks to bringing dividends into the country. We know that following independence back in 1960, the organized tourism started actually with the establishment of Nigeria Tourist Association, which started in 1962. So tourism development, as we know, brings foreign inflows, it brings infrastructural development and a whole lot of things, especially when you look at how it is done in other climes. When you bring it to Nigeria, you begin to ask what has been going on since 1960. So today on the show, we have the Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Lola Adejohn, in our Abuja studios to tell us what the journey has been and what we are up to as a country when it comes to tourism. Thank you very much for joining us on this show this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Now, let's
tourism.
Let's start with how you see tourism in this country and how it has been from 1960 to this very moment. If you were to describe the sector and how far we've come, what would that be?
Well, my own recollection and knowledge starts from about 2005. Where in that administration, there was an emphasis on ensuring that tourism thrives in the country in the Obasanjo regime. There was a policy, there was a master plan, and there was a big drive to ensure that people come into the country and move around the country to experience what the country has to offer. And from then on, tourism, it progressed, and there was a bit of a lull in the past administration. But this administration has recognized the fact that in order to diversify revenues, and to ensure that tourism is the #1 generator of revenue, the Renewed Hope agenda is putting everything it has into ensuring that objective.
So when you say that the present administration has identified those areas where this is not, why this is not happening, what are those specific areas that have been identified, and how is the Renewed Hope agenda set to tackle it in terms of specifics this time?
Well, the policy that was put together in 2005, we've renewed it, or should I say we've started the process, and the first draft has come out. The president also has encouraged the resuscitation of the Presidential Tourism Council, and where we'll be meeting and with all the ministers, the stakeholders, aviation, immigration, works, and power, education, security, all those ministers are in the Presidential Tourism Council, and also the stakeholders, which consists of the governors in all the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, and external stakeholders. They are all involved in the tourism stakeholder steering committee, and we're taking all the issues. A lot of them, everybody knows that we have security issues, but we're not the only country that has security issues. We're going to ensure that tourism goes from the communities right up to the local government, to the states, and to the federation itself, so that women and youth and all the people in the country are involved in selling what we have, selling our culture, selling our the good things in this country and all the things that we can think of, conservation, etc.
All right, madam, when you talk about priority, as soon as you mention the word priority, one of the first place as a checklist is how much is allocated to that sector. And I'm looking at your budget in your ministry, Federal Ministry of Tourism. I see that in an entire year, you have just about 18 billion. Even if we have that, add that of creative economy, arts and culture, which is roughly about 27 billion cumulatively, because I know you have an overlapping responsibility in some sort. I don't think it's more than 45 billion. So how is this a priority?
Database, which will get all the information from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, from aviation, from immigration, from hotels, from restaurants, and we use the figures there to have more or less accurate figures of our contribution to GDP and also tax. That's the first priority, and that's why it appeared as if the budget was small compared to arts and culture, because we need to ensure that we have those basics in place. Then the second part of the budget is to work with the communities, train the communities to be ready for tourism itself. In the other parts of the cabinet, especially when it comes to infrastructure, we do have infrastructure. However, they're ailing. We've started the cabinet, or should I say, the government has started resuscitation of roads, repairs, and we all know that the coastal road has started, and it's affecting 9 states with the beaches and all that, so it's the coastal road that will open up activities in 9 states, as well as transportation between the south and the north.
Right.
Yes.
So, Honorable Minister, I want us to be a bit more practical, right? Because this is Friday. A lot of people have the weekend to just do things. That they listen to this conversation and thinking, okay, maybe I can explore some tourist attraction here in Nigeria. And, there's this book from Dayo Adedayo. I'm sure you must have seen the book, Tour Nigeria. It's like my tourism Bible. I mean, look at the images, beautiful. I look at the national parks. We have at least 15 national parks. National museums, we have at least 45. And that's not to talk of private museums. You can imagine all of the gold in those museums. Then you look at historical and tourist attractions across the states. Madam, we have hundreds. I mean, hundreds. Some states have too much that they even know. Some of them have not even been scratched, talk more of, explored enough. So I'd like you to speak to us about the numbers you are seeing and what you're seeing in terms of revenue. We've seen figures like $2.9 billion, contribution to GDP. Ghana doing $1.9 billion, and Ghana is like, what, 5 or 1/5 the size of Nigeria. So, Honorable Minister, in terms of the numbers of this site and the revenue, what are you looking at?
We're hoping that in between now and the next 4 years, the revenue itself will increase fourfold to almost surpass the revenues that we're getting from the oil and gas, because the revenue creation starts from within the country itself. The dependence on revenues from visitors coming into the country is not as much as from within the country itself. Our people going to one place, from one place to the other, and also creation of jobs and from the white collar jobs to the informal sector, and all that together will ensure that the revenue increases fourfold.
So if you say, pardon me, and if you say fourfold, are we looking at, if we're doing $2.9 billion, are we looking at $12 billion? And to say it will surpass oil, that's a huge target. Is it really attainable? And we'd like to hear practicalities. So are you partnering with the private sector? Because these are things that will actually sell these tourist sites. How much of technology are you bringing in? Infrastructure as well, not just roads and stuff, but infrastructure in those places. You have tourist areas that don't have, cable cars are not working. And I know you know where I'm talking about, the Obodo Cattle Ranch, and that's meant to be a big seller, infrastructure decay and all of that. So maybe tell us about the plans.
Every tourism sits in the states. Every state has tourist attractions. In fact, we've compiled over 1,000 tourist attractions in the country. The revenue, the regeneration or resuscitation of the assets has already started. Ikogosi in Ekiti has started, and they claim that they've only done 5%, but it's already habitable. And when we went to visit, there were already tourists there, both international and local tourists. The resuscitation of Obudu Mountain Resort has already started. Also from the private sector, and there's plans to build an international airport there and revive the villas and also build a new hotel there. And the most important thing is bringing in power, and there's a dam that is being worked on to ensure that there's constant electricity. The Yankari Game Reserve, there's also discussions going on with the Bauchi State Governor and potential investors for the repopulation of the animals in the cattle ranch, and also to ensure that there's the adequate security, and so on and so forth. So also in the east, we are looking at the caves and the waterfalls, and also in Oyo State, the only suspended lake in the world is in Oyo State. We're also in plans engaging with external stakeholders to revive and to ensure that it is welcoming to our tourists, local and international tourists. And then on the digital side, we, because of our children in diaspora and also in schools here in Nigeria, we want to encourage visual and virtual tours to some of these beautiful sites that we have. You've seen the pictures, and to encourage virtual reality as a means of exposing our country to everybody.
So let's talk about that exposure and how much has been put into exposing the beautiful sceneries we have in this country. Talking about awareness, I think this is the time that the ministry can work with influencers, especially social media influencers, who know these places and who can actually preach the gospel to people on how beautiful these places are. Talking about safety, of course, that will be another discussion. For example, I didn't even know that Ibadan had Eleyele Lakes. I had stayed in Ibadan for more than 4 years, and seeing it on social media, it was so beautiful. So how much do you take awareness seriously to make everyone know that, oh, we have this beautiful things. It's not just you traveling abroad every time. Work with schools, for example, with students going on excursions. I remember how we used to do that growing up. How much energy are you putting into awareness actually as a ministry?
Well, we all know that awareness is fully dependent on the media, and both the social media as well as the print media. Promotion, and so we need a lot of money, and we're looking for investors as well as the government itself into promoting what we have in this country on the various channels, the news and the papers, and but we're also working with our influencers. We've started engaging with like the authentic cyclists. We have Lagos State has encouraged the collaboration with Pelumi, who drove from the UK all the way across the desert to Nigeria. She is also an influencer. We also have our chefs, the chef Elegbede and what have you. We are also working with Osun State, and there are connections with some of our musicians, and they will also be some of our influencers in Nigeria. We also are working with the Culture Ministry and the National Orientation Agency to bring out the best of what we have in this country.
All right, Minister, let's talk about something that can be strategic, measurable, and time-bound as to what you aspire this to be in the next 4 years. Because I see that you've been mentioning a few things, but the truth is that people are not feeling it, the Ministry of Tourism, because at the end of the day, that's why we're asking whether it's winking in the dark or what exactly is going on, because this is a huge potential. I was looking at the UN data of 2022. Nigeria is nowhere among the top 5. So we have Egypt, Mauritius, and the rest of the country. Not to even talk of the global numbers. So maybe you give to us, between now and, say, the next election cycle, 2024, where as a ministry do you want tourism to be in Nigeria? Is it among the top 10, among the top 5? How much do you want tourism to generate when you aggregate all the numbers at the end of the day? Because to be very sincere with you, Honorable Minister, I know things are going on within the ministry, but I don't think Nigerians are feeling what you're doing from that ministry.
I agree with you that people are not feeling what we're doing in the ministry. I would say that our work actually started in January this year, and we did a complete review of what was on ground. And that was why I came up with the idea that we need to put our database in place. If you can't measure, you cannot monitor, and you cannot plan, which we believe is the most important thing. And that has taken a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of effort to put that in place. And we're almost there. We've secured funding for that, and we're currently in the process of building that database, which also requires input from the various external stakeholders, aviation, immigration, the hotels, eateries, and what have you. So we've done that, or we're doing that. The second part is going around to some of the sites to establish what needs to be done, and also to encourage investment from the private sector into those tourist sites. That is a lot of hard work, and I mean, we do expect a miracle and magic in that we need to be seen, we need to be heard, but we believe that planning is also very important. Without proper planning, and we're just jumping into things, we cannot sustain, we won't be able to sustain that. And so we have plans, and the visibility will start to grow. We have a gastronomy fair, which we intend to get the country involved in before Ramadan next year, 2005. There are lots of activities this year, apart from what normally happens in Lagos. There are some other festivals that we are encouraging, and we'll soon be publicizing those. I don't want to say too much for now, but the publicity will start, I can assure you, and you feel it.
All right, Honorable Minister, I like the part where you talked about investments and collaborations with private sectors. We've seen what has happened in the past with people who have come to invest in some of these lovely sites. And for example, the landmark area and other businesses that were affected as a result of the coast line and the that road supposed to pass through the coastal area in the country. What other confidence? How should investors even be confident that they invest and put their money into something and it just goes away in just a second? How would the federal government ensure they work with these private sectors and these investors who want to come and put their own money down into ensuring the tourism sector is improved in this country? How would they be assured that they are doing the right thing?
That is why I said that planning is very important. Yes, mistakes were made. The understanding that some of our investors had were not quite correct, and things happened in the past. Investments were done, but some things were not done properly. And we have to admit that. So it means that all the investment that we want to get and we want to encourage, we have to ensure that we dot our I's and cross our T's to ensure that from a legal perspective and also from a governance perspective, things are done properly. In the past, I don't want to say too much about what happened in Landmark, but clearly on all sides, both the government and also the private sector, things were not as it appeared. And so those mistakes will not happen again, that I can assure you.
Well, we'll hold on to those words because it's important to protect what we have. Yes, follow the law as well. So it's a very good balance. I do not envy you at all, Honorable Minister, because your work is a very tricky one. On the one hand, you get to see the tourist attractions, historical sites, which some may envy you for. On the other hand, you have a job to do while you're doing that. Ensure that at least those places, the policies, ensure that those places are profitable for the good of our nation. So it's a mix, fun and a lot of work doing that. So I want you to, this morning, Honorable Minister, sell some of these sites to Nigerians. As I said earlier on, today is Friday. People are probably penning down their plans for the weekend. So maybe sell to us top 5 tourist attractions for you. I know, yes, you don't want to be biased, but you have to have at least a top 5. So I want you to sell it to a prospective tourist, either a Nigerian or otherwise, who has this weekend free and wants to go out.
Yes, thank you. So for me, number 1 attraction is Obudu, Mountain Resort. It's heaven. We went to the top of the mountain, and it was as if the clouds came down to meet us there. Despite the fact that the cable car is currently being revived, it's still a beautiful place. It compares with a lot of places in the world. So that's for me the number one place. The number two place is the Kogosi. It was also revived by the Ekiti state government as well as the private investors, Kavista Holdings, and they've done a wonderful job. It's a place to go to. As I said, there are already visitors there. And what I found fascinating is that the community itself were the ones that put the place, they cleared it out and they're involved. They look after the place, and the place is heavily secured. So it's a wonderful place. So that's the second one. In the north, believe it or not, we have in Yobe State, we have the desert safari, which is also very prominent and is also worth going to. Yes, it's a bit rough to get there, but it's actually worth it. The other place is in Taraba, Gashaka Gunte, where we have conservation and we have the animals and what have you. It's another beautiful place. You can imagine, even though the population of the animals have reduced, it's still worth going to. Then in the southeast, we have the Anum caves. It's with the colors and the experience you have is something to behold. Then, as I said, we have the waterfalls in Kwara State. I haven't been there. I've seen pictures, and we're working with the state government on that. That's also worth going to. Right. And in Oyo State, we have the suspended lake. That is also worth visiting. And we're also hoping to get certification from UNESCO as a heritage site. And we have places in Lagos, for instance. We have Badagry.
Pardon me, Honorable Minister. If I left you to do this, pardon me, if I left you, I'm sure you market all of the over 1,000 locations for Nigerians and those outside. But it's just goes to show.
10.
I said 5. You doubled it, Honorable Minister.
You said 5.
I said 5, but it's okay.
I thought you said 10.
It's okay. We'll take the other ones as time goes by. But these are the messages that should be on repeat at the airport. And every chance that people get to interact with Nigerians, these things should be on repeat. And I tell you that the media is here to support you on that one. But quickly, as we begin to wind down, I want to ask, because there's a lot of work for you to do, rather. And there was that scare, that health scare you had. For a lot of people, they've not gotten closure to that, but they're happy to see you. So I'd like you to maybe give some sort of closure to that. What happened, and how are you now? It's important to check on our ministers, and that's what we're doing.
When you say health care, you mean me?
Yes,
myself.
You. Health scare, yes. It was reported last year.
Oh, yes. I actually don't know what happened. I was ill. The medical team in Abuja did a fantastic job, and I was cured. I think I had what you call cerebral malaria, and everything was done to ensure that I recovered, and I did recover. You can see how I look. I think I'm a picture of health right now, and it was all done locally. In fact, one of our tourism streams is medical tourism, because we do believe that we have what it takes in this country, and we find that the cost of medical treatment is comparable and much cheaper than anywhere else in the world. And we're working with the various private hospitals to sell what we are capable of doing. So I'm a picture of and a recipient from the medical tourism, and even though I was ill, but I'm back, and I'm back on track. Yes.
We're super glad that you're better and back. And we wish you the very best. But as we begin to wind down, a quick one. South Africa has its own share of insecurity, but people still head down to South Africa for one form of tourism or the other. We Nigerians, we know we have insecurity as a challenge. How is your ministry collaborating with the security agencies on one hand, and then the aviation sector? We had the FAN MD, she came here, she spoke to us about, she told us about 20-something airports in Nigeria, the true functional ones that are actually sustaining that sector, it's just about 3. So that's a very bad data, a very bad scorecard as far as airports are concerned, whether international or local. So my question is, despite the challenges we have, what ingenious way are you looking forward to ensuring that people come to Nigeria to have a bit of leisure and pleasure?
Okay, thank you. So the process of coming starts not from the airports, but it actually starts from immigration, the visas, and getting a passport. We're working with the immigration agencies, and the ease of getting visas have improved and will continue to improve. So especially within Africa, the ECOWAS region, and also from abroad, the diaspora, the visas are easier to get now as we speak. That's the first thing. Then the airports itself are going through a major uplift. And also the people that work in the airport, we're starting the training to ensure that they're welcoming, and people can go and talk to them, and also they do what they're supposed to do in the airport. There was a time that it was full of touts in the airports, but they've reduced significantly. When I go to the airports, I don't sit in the VIP lounge. I sit in the open air, and I observe and see what happens in the airport. So I would say I'm one of the first people to experience or to feel what actually happens at the airports. So I can also repeat what you experience. And I can assure you that the Minister of Aviation, I talk to him regularly. He's also working with other stakeholders, in the private sector to help to revamp what is in the airports.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. Collaboration is the key word here, and I hope that the ministry also can actually provide brochures or leaflets to put in hotel rooms or at the reception in hotels, which we see in other climes when you travel outside the country. Maybe that will help tell people more about Nigeria and the beautiful things and places we have in the country. So thank you very much, Mrs. Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism. Thanks a lot for your time on the Morning Brief today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And in terms of the brochures, it's not just the hotels. Also, we're going to have tourist desks in all the cities and across the country.
All right. Great. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we're not done just yet. We have more for you, and it's about to make you laugh, but that's in a moment when we return. So please stay with us.